Imagine finding a small bone buried in the ground. At first glance, it seems ordinary, but when researchers examined it closely, they noticed something strange. The bone was covered in carefully carved markings, not random scratches, not accidental cuts, patterns so unusual that some scientists began asking a shocking question. Could this be one of the world's oldest mathematical tools? Could ancient Africans have understood complex numerical concepts thousands of years before recorded history? More than 70 years after its discovery, the mystery of the Ishango Bone remains unsolved. And today, we are going to investigate why. Welcome to the African Case Files, where we investigate Africa's greatest mysteries, forgotten histories, and unexplained stories. If you are fascinated by mysteries and discoveries that challenge what we think we know, subscribe and join us. Now, let's open the case file. Our story begins in 1950, near the border of what is now the Democratic Republic of Congo and Uganda. Belgian geologist Jean de Henzelin was conducting research near Lake Edward. The area was known for archaeological discoveries, but nobody expected what would be found next. Among ancient artifacts and tools, researchers discovered a small bone approximately 10 centimeters long. Embedded into one end of the bone was a sharp piece of cards, almost like a primitive tool. But the most unusual feature was not the cards, it was the markings. The bone contained rows of carefully carved notches. Someone had deliberately placed them there. The question was simple: who and why? Initial estimates suggested the bone could be around 20,000 years old. If true, it would have been created long before written language, long before modern mathematics, long before the rise of the world's greatest civilizations. And yet the markings appeared organized, intentional, meaningful. Let's examine the evidence. The Ishango bone contains 3 columns of notches. Researchers counted them, studied them, compared them, and what they found sparkled decades of debate. In one column, the numbers seemed to follow a pattern. Some group appeared to double, others seemed connected through arithmetic relationships. Certain sequences suggested deliberate numerical thinking. This immediately raised eyebrows, because if the markings were intentional mathematical records, they would represent one of humanity's earliest known examples of mathematical reasoning. Think about that. Not just counting, not just keeping track of animals or supplies, potentially understanding numerical relationships. Thousands of years before the pyramids, thousands of years before written mathematics appeared elsewhere. But not everyone agreed, and that's where the mystery begins. The first major theory is perhaps the most exciting. Some scholars believe the Ishango bone represents an early mathematical tool. According to this interpretation, the markings demonstrate knowledge of addition, doubling, and numerical organization. Some researchers even suggested the patterns reflect prime numbers. If true, this would be extraordinary. Prime numbers are numbers divisible only by themselves and 1. Recognizing them requires a level of abstract thinking. Supporters argue that the arrangement of the notches is simply too structured to be random. They believe the creator understood concepts that resemble basic mathematics. If they are right, the Ishango bone could force historians to rethink the origins of mathematical thought. But there is a problem. There is no way to prove this interpretation with certainty, and that brings us to Theory 2. Another group of researchers proposes a different explanation. They believe the bone may have functioned as a calendar, specifically a lunar calendar. Ancient societies often tracked the phases of the moon. The moon influences seasons, migration patterns, hunting cycles, and agriculture. Some researchers noticed that certain groups of notches aligned surprisingly well with lunar cycles. According to this theory, the creator wasn't performing mathematics, they were recording time, tracking months, observing the natural world. This explanation has gained support because humans have relied on celestial observations for thousands of years. Yet, once again, certainty remains elusive. The evidence is suggestive, but not conclusive. Perhaps the most conservative theory is also the simplest. Some experts argue the Ishango bone was nothing more than a counting device. The markings may have been used to track resources, animals hunted, food collected, days passed, or other practical information. According to this theory, modern researchers may be seeing patterns that were never intended. Human beings naturally search for meaning. We connect dots, we identify patterns. Sometimes those patterns are real, Sometimes they are not. Could the mathematical theories be overcomplicating something simple? Possibly. And that uncertainty is exactly why the mystery continues. So what does the evidence actually tell us? We know the markings were deliberate. We know they were created by human hands. We know the creator invested time and effort into making them. The structure appears organized. That much is difficult to dispute. But proving mathematical intent is another matter entirely. The mathematical theory is fascinating. The calendar theory is plausible. The counting tool theory is practical. Each explanation fits some of the evidence. None explain everything, which leaves us with a frustrating reality. The most important witness in this case disappeared 20,000 years ago, and the bone itself cannot tell us what its creator was thinking. The Ishango Bone remains one of Africa's most fascinating mysteries. A small artifact with enormous implications. Was it humanity's earliest calculator, a lunar calendar, a simple counting tool, or something entirely different? For now, nobody knows. But perhaps that's what makes the mystery so compelling. A tiny bone discovered near a lake in Central Africa continues to challenge everything we think we know about humanity's past. And until new evidence emerges, the case remains open. What do you think? Was the Ishango Bone an ancient mathematical tool, a calendar, or something else entirely? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this investigation, subscribe to the African Case Files and join us as we uncover Africa's greatest mystery. Until next time, stay curious, stay compassionate, and keep seeking the truth.